All right, we can go on the record. Good morning, everyone. Today is July 21st, 2023. We're here for day 4 of the hearings at the Maryland Public Service Commission on case number 9695, which is in the matter of the Potomac Edison Company's application for adjustments to its retail rates for the distribution of electric energy. Do we have anything we need to handle preliminarily this morning? Okay, staff, you can call your next witness.
Staff calls James Guerin.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. Mr. Guerin, will you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Can you state your first and last name and spell it for the court reporter, please?
James Shea Guerin. S-H-A-Y, thank you. G-A-R-R-E-N.
Your witness, staff.
Thank you. Please state your position with the, or please state your who you are employed by and your position with the commission.
My name is James Guerin. I'm employed by GDS Associates, a consulting company, and here representing staff.
Thank you. And do you have with you 2 documents, one document entitled Direct Testimony of James Guerin, consisting of 37 pages of text and 5 exhibits, and surrebuttal testimony of James Guerin, consisting of 8 pages of text?
Yes.
And have these documents been pre-filed in this case?
Yes.
And was this document prepared by you?
Yes.
Do you have any additions, deletions, or changes that you would like to make to this document at this time?
I do not.
And do you adopt this document as your direct testimony and surrebuttal testimony in this case?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, I ask that direct testimony of James Guerin, consisting of 37 pages and 5 exhibits, be marked for identification as Staff Exhibit 12. And I ask that the surrebuttal testimony of James Guerin, consisting of 8 pages, be marked for identification as Staff Exhibit 13. At this time, I would like to move Staff Exhibits 12 and 13 into evidence, subject to cross-examination.
No, you're...
The witness is available for cross.
No cross, Your Honor.
Office of People's Counsel.
Yes, just a few questions, Your Honor. Hello, Mr. Guerin. Gary, G-A-R-Y, Alexander, A-L-E-X, A-N-D-E-R, with the middle initial of L. Gary L. Alexander. Okay, good morning, Mr. Guerin.
good morning, Mr. Alexander.
I just have very basic questions. Now, in this case that it's on now, okay. In this case, you've calculated net salvage on a vintage basis, correct?
Are you referring to the present value calculation?
Yes.
Yes, I have calculated the present value.
I'm sorry, right. So, yes.
Yes. I have performed the present value calculations on a vintage basis, yes.
Okay. And does Mr. Spanos do the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, now, in addition to representing staff, in this case in the past, you've represented OPC on matters of depreciation, correct?
That is true.
And would it be accurate to say that in pretty much all of those cases, at least the ones I remember, that for the present value method, you have calculated net salvage on a vintage basis.
Yes, I have.
So is it fair to state that calculating net salvage on a vintage basis is generally accepted by all utility plant depreciation experts?
I would say that, yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Garrett, in this case, calculated net salvage rates on an account level basis rather than on a vintage basis. Is that an accepted method too, along with the vintage basis? And if it isn't, you know.
I would have some difficulty with the characterization of accepted because it hasn't been used to my knowledge in some time. I would characterize it as a reasonable way to calculate present value. I happen to think that the vintage basis is superior, but I think it is also a reasonable way to calculate present value.
Okay, and is there, thank you, and is there if you know, is there a different, by using the vintage basis rather than the account level basis, is there a different impact in terms of dollars or in rate base on something? If you know it, can you say generally what it is?
I would be a little hesitant to say for sure what the impact would be on in a general sense, in a general basis, and because I haven't calculated in this case, haven't calculated the difference in this case. But in a general sense, I would expect that the impact of using the account-based present value calculation would be to result in higher net salvage and higher depreciation expense overall relative to the vintage-based calculation. That is my general expectation.
And so what would that mean in terms of the depreciation reserve and the rate base? Again, without specific dollars, just about what you said.
Well, if using the account-based calculation results in higher depreciation expense, then it would result in higher accumulated depreciation over time and reduced rate base over time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garrett. That's it, Your Honor.
Potomac Edison?
Yes, Your Honor. A few questions this morning. Good morning, Mr. Guerin. Nice
Good morning,
to see
Mr.
you again.
Gunderson. I have that right, Gunderson?
Gunderson, yes, thank you. You agree that the quality of an expert witness's opinions depends on the quality of that expert's judgment?
Yes, I suppose I would agree with that characterization.
In fact, informed judgment is something that you mentioned in your testimony that you say that you employed in developing your proposals in this case, correct?
Yes, I would add that I think that informed judgment is, while it is an important component of depreciation expertise, I think that the emphasis really does need to be on the mathematical calculation. For instance, Mr. Spanos occasionally has pointed out that and it's correct, that in the NARUC manual, I always refer to it as the depreciation manual, but it is the depreciation utility, or public utility depreciation practices, has a section dedicated to informed judgment, the purposes of informed judgment, and the categories of informed judgment that go into informed judgment. But the public utility depreciation practices is by and large a massive document dedicated to mathematical analysis, and that is the most important component of a depreciation study.
Okay, thank you. Please turn to your resume, which was attached to your direct testimony. I think it's the first document attached to your direct testimony.
My apologies. I do not seem to have my resume in my binder.
Okay, we can get you a copy.
For space, it was excluded as
Yeah, he could, we have a copy up here, up on the witness stand that we can show you.
Apologies, one moment.
Sure, no problem. Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Uh, you do not have a degree in mathematics, correct?
That is correct.
And the field of depreciation, as it applies to public utilities, also involves a good understanding of how utilities manage their distribution assets. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, Potomac Edison's depreciation witness in this case, Mr. Spanos, I'm sure you're familiar with him. He has performed hundreds of full depreciation studies. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you agree that Mr. Spanos, in this case, conducted all the steps of a depreciation study as well, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And one of the aspects of conducting a depreciation study is conducting site visits and interviewing utility management to understand their operating plans. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so Mr. Spanos, who has performed hundreds of depreciation studies, has also had hundreds of opportunities to speak with utility operations management to understand how utilities manage their assets. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And my understanding is that yourself, you have not conducted a depreciation study in which all the steps of a depreciation study were completed, correct?
That's correct.
And I think we covered this last time I cross-examined you. I think you've only conducted one site visit in the course of your time as a witness, a depreciation witness. Is that right?
One site visit is as part of the process of conducting a depreciation review. However, I have visited sites of other utilities, water utilities primarily, in the process of other projects.
Okay. All right. Turning back to your resume, if you look on the bottom of the second page, going on to the third page, you list the proceedings that you have provided testimony. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And am I correct that in each of these cases, you have never concluded that a company's proposed total depreciation expense was too low? Is that correct?
On a total basis, that's correct.
Okay. And then staying on the second page of your resume, you, under the title of regulatory experience, you list a variety of state commissions as well as FERC. Am I correct that these are the jurisdictions that you've submitted testimony in?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So you've never been employed by a state utility commission or FERC, is that correct? Or FERC, F-E-R-C.
This is, just didn't think about that for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in my capacity as an expert witness, I believe that's correct.
Okay. And now, as I mentioned, I cross-examined you back in 2019, which is Potomac Edison's last rate case. If you turn to the first page of your resume, you'll recall back in 2019, I was walking through your resume and discovered that the organization listed as Issue Advocacy Organization, that's not the actual name of the organization. However, you continue to list that in your resume in this case as well. And that's not the actual name of the organization, correct?
No, that's correct.
And the actual organization that you performed work for in 2008 to 2009 was not energy related or depreciation related, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, why have you not updated your resume to reflect the actual name of the organization that you work for?
The organization that I worked for was called the Marijuana Policy Project. Marijuana Policy Project. And it is an organization that is dedicated to marijuana policy issues, criminal justice policy issues, and as a result raises a lot of strong political feelings, and I have just excluded it from my resume as it is not relevant for the most part.
Okay. Well, have you kept using the phrase issue advocacy organization as a way to make it seem like it might be relevant to your practice as a depreciation witness?
That was certainly not the intent, no.
Okay. All right. Now, in your surrebuttal testimony, if you want to look at it, it's page 8, lines 1 to 4. You mentioned that one of the considerations that you took into consideration when evaluating service lives is the overall industry experience of appropriate service lives. Is that correct?
Sorry, if you just give me one moment. Now
Yeah.
my surrebuttal.
I don't want to jump ahead. So surrebuttal, page 8, lines 1 to 4 is where you discuss that.
Okay. Sorry. Yes. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so my question is just, do you agree that one of the considerations that when evaluating service lives for depreciation analysis is the overall industry experience of appropriate service lives? Is that
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes. Thank you.
And Your Honor, we asked Mark the exhibit that I just handed out as Potomac Edison Exhibit 39.
Potomac Edison Exhibit 39 is marked.
Your Honor, I have no objection to this, but I'm looking quickly, and because I'm looking quickly, is the name of the this is testimony in 9670. Is the name of the company on this somewhere, if I can? That's all I want to know.
It looks like it's on page 2. It says the application of Delmarva Power and Light
That's
Company.
it. That's all I want to know. I didn't have my glasses on. Thank you.
So I'm just going to describe the exhibit for the record. Mr. Guerin, I've handed you what's been marked as Potomac Edison Exhibit 39. The first page of the exhibit are 3 tables that I have created that summarize the average service lives that you're proposing in this case for 4 certain accounts as compared to the service lives that you proposed in 3 recent cases in Maryland, case number 9670, case number 9424, and case number 9355. And then attached to the exhibit, I've attached excerpts of your testimony in those cases so that you can check my work if you'd like. And so, have you had a chance to take a look through it real quickly? I know it's on the fly.
Yeah, I've certainly had a chance to familiarize myself with the front page, which I suppose is the primary element of what you're going to be asking about.
Yes. Well, do you agree, subject to check, if you like, that the service lives that you propose in case numbers 9670, 9424, 9355 for FERC accounts 362, 364, 365, and 366 are accurately reflected here on the first page of Potomac Edison Exhibit 39?
Subject to check, yes.
Okay. And do you agree that if you alter service lives to make them longer, that all other things being equal will lower depreciation expense, which equates to lower distribution rates?
That's correct.
Now, in a prior case before the Maryland Commission, you were found to have cherry-picked plant accounts to alter in order to decrease the depreciation expense. Is that correct?
I think that slightly mischaracterizes the statement made by the judge in that case, but I think that in essence, that's fair.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes. I see that you had an extra copy of the last item 39? Can I have an extra copy? Thank you. Are we marking this as Potomac Edison as Exhibit 40?
Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and mark it as Potomac Edison Exhibit 40, yes.
40 is marked. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
That's right. Mr. Guerin, I've handed you what has been marked as Potomac Edison Exhibit 40, which is the proposed order of public utility law judge in case number 9424. And you testified in this case, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you recall whether the commission staff recommended relying on your proposed depreciation rates or the company's proposed depreciation rates in that case?
I do not recall.
Okay. If you turn to the second page of Exhibit 40, Potomac Edison Exhibit 40, in that second full paragraph, the sentence that starts with "furthermore," can you read that sentence out loud?
Furthermore, I concur with Dr. White's suggestion that Mr. Guerin appears to have simply chosen the most beneficial accounts to alter in order to decrease the depreciation expense, i.e., those accounts where OPC projected longer lives while ignoring accounts that would increase the expense. While
And
I would state that I do not agree with this conclusion.
Okay, that's fair. Are you the Mr. Guerin referenced in that sentence?
I am.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions, and I ask that Potomac Edison Exhibits 39 and 40 be entered into evidence.
Any objection? 39 and 40 are admitted. Staff counsel?
Mr. Guerin, looking at PE Exhibit 39,
Yes.
first page with the chart that demonstrates the differences between the recommended service lives. In noting the difference here, can you tell me about how you may have changed or amended your approach to the depreciation study since these cases occurred?
I would say that my approach generally hasn't changed very much at all. However, the facts of each depreciation case are dramatically different. And comparing the service lives recommended for one company in one case versus one company, a different company, you're going to expect to have significantly different rates. You should be having significantly different, lives. You should have significantly different lives. The particular physical facts, environmental facts, economic facts, management facts of each company are going to be different. Those differences are going to be reflected in their historical data, and your conclusions should vary depending on the particular facts of each company. Looking here, I'm looking at this exhibit and noting that from case 9424 to 9670 in the case of Delmarva Power, my life recommendations for three of the 4 accounts changed from case to case as the facts over time have changed. And in fact, one of the accounts has lowered from 52 years to 45 years as the particular facts of that particular case for that particular company suggested that a lower average service life was appropriate. So comparing my conclusions for Potomac Edison Company versus Delmarva Power Company, or BGE, is going to be not an apples to oranges conclusion. You should be, not you should be, but you would expect to be in the same range. But certainly I would not expect to reach the same conclusions regarding average service lives for two different companies over two different periods.
Thank you. And I would also like to discuss a little more about some of these service life calculations that were done. So can you discuss kind of the importance of the mathematical analysis in your depreciation study and how that affects your calculation of the service lives?
Sure. In my view, the mathematical analysis that's performed, and by mathematical analysis, to be clear, I mean both the initial actuarial analysis, which comprises the observed life table that calculates the percent surviving at each age. That's the first sort of phase, and then we also mean by mathematical analysis the curve fitting process that matches that percent surviving to a prefabricated Iowa curve and life. Iowa curve in life. That analysis, that actuarial analysis and curve fitting process, to me, is the core of depreciation life analysis. And what separates a depreciation study from educated guessing about the service lives of a particular company. So to me, a depreciation, your conclusions regarding average service lives should always be accountable to that actuarial analysis. Now, you might differ from it for a variety of reasons, as Mr. Spanos elucidates, where you have expectations related to a particular technology in the future that you expect to be retired at an accelerated rate, or that you expect to have a shorter life duration than a different technology that exists in the past. But to my point of view, those changes that you make, those alterations, should always be accountable to your historical analysis and should be reflected in your depreciation study at the very least.
And can you also discuss how how your overall experience impacted your review of the accounts mentioned in this case, specifically the ones where you differed from Mr. Spanos?
Well, I wouldn't want to. I mean, I sort of characterize the differences, or my conclusions, in my direct testimony, and I could reread that, but I'm not sure if that would get to what you're really asking. Can you maybe rephrase the question?
So I'm referring to your judgment as an experienced depreciation expert, and how your judgment and experience may lead you to different conclusions, or may have led you to different conclusions than those that were reached by Mr. Spanos or also Mr. Garrett.
I think that the primary difference between Mr. Spanos' conclusions and my own is a difference in emphasis between the mathematical, the actuarial analysis, the mathematical analysis, and the informed judgment component. I believe Mr. Garrett, although Mr. Garrett and I reached slightly different conclusions, both emphasize the retirement rate analysis and the curve fitting process over more subjective factors. And I think that accounts probably for the primary difference. It's really a difference of emphasis, a difference of approach, more than a difference in my experience from Mr. Spanos's. In fact, I would say that as a function of the rate case process, I rely to a great extent on Mr. Spanos' experience in reaching conclusions about the company's particular facts. Mr. Spanos performs site visits and interviews with the company staff, and I ask for that information, for information that he gleaned from that process to inform my own judgment. That's an important part, an important component of the information gathering process for me, is trying to gain the benefit of what Mr. Spanos has learned earlier in the process, which is impractical for me to repeat as part of a rate case.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
So I'm looking at this Exhibit 39 prepared by Potomac Edison, and the first box represents case number 9670, which was Delmarva Power in 2020, and you were a witness for OPC in that matter. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
The second box represents a 2017 Delmarva case, 9424, where you were a witness from the Office of People's Counsel. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
And the third box represents a 2014 case with BGE, case number 9355, and you were a witness for the Office of People's Counsel for that case as well. Do I recall correctly that you were the witness in the last Potomac Edison rate case phase 2, 9490?
That's correct.
That was in 2021?
Yes,
And you were a witness for the Office of People's Counsel in that case as well?
that's correct.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you for your appearance this morning.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Office of Staff Counsel, you can call your next witness.
We're going to switch attorneys.
I'm Kenneth Albert on behalf of staff. Yeah, ALB is in boy, ERT is in Tom. And Mr. Court Reporter, please do let me know if I'm getting going a little too fast for you. I know it's a lot to keep up with.
Good morning. Can you state your name and spell it for the court reporter, please?
Good morning. Bion C. Ostrander. First name is B-I-O-N, middle initial C. Last name Ostrander, O-S-T-R-A-N-D-E-R.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Your witness.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Ostrander.
Good morning.
Who do you work for?
Ostrander Consulting.
And what kind of work do you do there?
I'm a regulatory consultant, and I'm the president of Ostrander Consulting.
Okay, and you did prepare direct testimony in this case that was filed on June 9th, 2023?
That is correct.
Your Honor, could we have that direct testimony of Mr. Ostrander marked as Staff Exhibit 14?
Staff Exhibit 14 is marked.
And Mr. Ostrander, did you prepare an an errata version of your direct testimony that was filed by staff on June 21, 2023.
Yes.
And what was the purpose of filing an errata?
The purpose of the errata in that particular instance was I inadvertently made an error in the revenue requirement calculation, not showing the tax effect of, I think, one or two adjustments. So when I filed the errata, it really just made a change, I believe, of 3 numbers in my testimony, and it did not impact my policy position or any other matters.
And then you did prepare surrebuttal testimony in this case, correct?
Yes.
And that was filed on July 14, 2023. Now, do you have any changes or revisions to those testimonies?
Yes. I have one correction to both my original direct testimony and the errata. And it will appear at the same place in both sets of testimonies because, like I said earlier, those testimonies are identical except for 3 numbers that changed. So if you turn to page 47, line 8, the amount shown as $44,941 should be changed to the amount of $444,941. And if you'll look up to line number 5, that will match that amount on line number 5. I also have one change.
Your Honor, if I may, could the witness just please repeat that number again?
Sure. That's at page 47, line 8. And the amount that is shown as $44,941 should instead be $444,941. Now turning to my surrebuttal testimony.
Surrebuttal. SURREBUTTAL.
And this is page 35, line 14. The amount shown as 39.6 M should be changed to the amount of 37.6 M. And that does not impact any other component of that testimony or the following lines.
M, I assume, stands for million.
Yes.
Those the only revisions you have?
Yes.
Okay, with that, Your Honor, staff would ask to admit into the record Mr. Ostrander's direct testimony, Staff Exhibit 14, the errata direct, Staff Exhibit 15, and the surrebuttal, Staff Exhibit 16.
Staff Exhibit 14 will be the direct, Staff Exhibit 15 will be the errata direct, and Staff Exhibit 16 will be the surrebuttal. Those are marked. Is there any objection?
Your Honor.
Staff Exhibits 14 through 16 are admitted into the administrative record.
The witness is available for cross, Your Honor.
Walmart,
No cross, Your Honor.
OPC,
No cross, Your Honor.
Potomac Edison.
No cross, Your Honor.
Mr. Ostrander, I don't have any questions for you.
Okay.
Your testimony was very speedy this morning. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You can be released. Any more witnesses for staff?
Your Honor, my understanding, those are the two witnesses for today.
Thank you. Does any party have anything else that we need to address this morning?
Your Honor, if I may, two things really quickly, I hope. I'm sorry, Barry Naum on behalf of Walmart. Two things very quickly, Your Honor. At the outset of the hearing this week, you had indicated in waiving Mr. Cronauer that you may have a bench request. I don't want to make more work for myself or my client, but I just wanted to ensure you don't need additional information from Walmart.
I should have communicated this earlier. I don't. I've been so busy issuing bench data requests for everyone else. I don't have one for Walmart.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
The
you.
second has to do with a bench data request that you issued yesterday. Having had the benefit of 20 hours of hindsight to think about it, and not having seen the analysis that was requested at least yet, Walmart still has some concerns about how we are going to proceed going forward with the information that may be provided by staff in support of Mr. Justy's perhaps revised testimony that may come between now and the conclusion of this case. I didn't know if the judge has had any opportunity to consider what that may look like. Should we be prepared to have an email discussion between the parties, or should I plan to attempt to recall Mr. Justy next Friday?
I have all of the thoughts about how that might proceed. Staff, do we have an idea on the time frame on the response to that data request?
I do not have that information. Well, I defer to a colleague.
Good morning. James Greger on behalf of staff. G-R-E-G-O-R. Yes, Your Honor. We're looking to provide an answer to yourself and the other parties no later than close of business, or maybe a little after close of business on Monday. That will include work papers and then not testimony, but perhaps a short narrative explanation of Mr. Justy's final analysis.
So then, Mr. Nam, my answer to you is I'll get back to you shortly after close of business on Monday.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate.
I'm very happy to hear from you at that same time.
Okay.
If you want to get back to me first, or if I get back to you, like any party can respond to that email with your position at that time. But I feel like I can't answer the question of how to proceed until I see if it's even something that I want in the record.
Understood. Thank you, Your Honor. And I would just like to state for the record that Walmart did receive the DR that is the subject of that bench data request yesterday from the company, and so it is the first time that Walmart has seen that DR from Potomac Edison to staff, and so it has certainly sparked some questions. We will be interested to see what the narrative that Mr. Justy provides. My concern is that due process may require an additional response to that narrative, whether through additional testimony or perhaps through some leeway in briefing, if we may have to seek that.
All things are open to consideration. I think what's great, though, is look at us. It's 10:53 today. So, and we ended a little early yesterday, too. So, you know, folks will have a little more time than we thought we would have prior to Monday at close of business or shortly thereafter, and prior to next Friday's hearings.
Great. Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the indulgence. Thanks.
Mr. Trout, I saw you approach council table, so I'm waiting with bated breath for what the...
Yeah, I was just being cautious, Your Honor. I'm not poised to lunge.
Okay. So no one has any other issues that we need to address today. Is that fair to say?
One more, Your Honor. So previously it was brought up the issue of live SIR rebuttal in regards to Soltis's her supplemental rebuttal. I just want to clarify that staff has no live SIR rebuttal, and we don't foresee the need to to recall anyone or anything along those lines.
And OPC has the same position, Your Honor. We do not feel that we need to recall Ms. Soltis at this point.
Thank you. Any SOLTIS? Anyone else? All right, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week next week. I know that there are some fun hearings scheduled for next week, so you won't be thinking about us this whole time. We will reconvene 1 week from today at 10 a.m. in this room. Thank you very much. We can go off the record.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.